the calendar invite that RSVP'd yes while I slept. The meeting was scheduled for 1:30 a.m., which is not a time people meet unless they want to lie about what they called it later. I found it the way you find a bruise by accident and a little late. My phone lit up while I was pouring coffee, a polite rectangle announcing, "You're attending, room service 1:32:45 a.m. Harbor Line." The calendar dot was a color I never use. Below it, guests, Mila K. Tara's optional, Milo organized. Location, Hospitality Suite 17. The word optional did good work like paper laid over a mirror. I scrolled the details with a knuckle I didn't trust. There were attachments, a brief if you wanted to call it that, low light, slow music, no down pillows, 2 sea salt martinis, moonroof if driving. The organizer had added a note I could hear being spoken by a mouth that gets answered. "Bring the scarf you love. You'll forget to take it home." We were an ordinary, you don't improve with adjectives. Yulia slept with her palms splayed over my ribs like she was taking attendance of my breath. On Sundays, I ironed pillowcases because flat cotton feels like a promise heat can keep. Our balcony forgave being too narrow for 2 chairs by letting us take turns and calling it choreography. If rain came after midnight, we cracked the window and let the city wash its face while we washed each other's. Her knee hooking behind my thigh with a knot's certainty. My mouth finding that nickel-bright patch beneath her collarbone, where breath confesses to being heat. Drift had been practicing for weeks. Rosemary left the kitchen. Something mineral moved in, citrus poured over stone, a scent that signs its name on air. Her phone adopted a 2-note chime at 12:06 and 12:11, precise as a doorbell for a smaller house inside ours. "London," she said once, rubbing her temple. "Their morning keeps trespassing on my midnight." She started showering in the dark. "Migraine," she told the mirror. I learned to shave by memory, and called that loyalty, because questions spend a currency you never get back. The calendar entry had RSVP'd yes on my behalf at 12:03 a.m. while my mouth was open in sleep like a modest hill. It also had a comments thread because software believes in minutes even when the meeting doesn't. "Parking under the bridge," the organizer wrote at 12:51. "Room 1717 if the suite is busy." A heart reacted. Yulia's account, my shared calendar, had added a thumbs up at 12:54. A small blue icon with her initials, cheerful as a clerk who's never lost anything. Evidence is the frightened man's hobby, and the morning had handed me a hobby kit. I screenshotted everything and slid it into a folder I named Rooms because I wanted the work to sound architectural. In the glove compartment, I found the obedient half of a cufflink, mother of pearl in gunmetal, the size of a coin you pay a ferryman when you're short on truth. I held it to the window and watched my face bend wrong inside its milky eye. In the coat closet, the scarf the note believed in lay on the shelf, folded in a way a hotel housekeeping seminar would applaud. We met in a stairwell because elevators like to educate. "Stairwells tell the truth," she said that first night, shoes in one hand, grin rehearsed for trouble. On the landing, she put her thumb on the thin place at my wrist and asked me to keep still while she learned me with her mouth. Later, in my bed, she slept with her palm over my ribs like gravity had asked for a cosigner. In the morning, the shoulder I photographed believed in its light. The room promised to remember. I made eggs even though I didn't want to eat them because heat persuades an hour to confess what it's becoming. Yulia came in wearing my t-shirt and the calm of someone who has rehearsed. She kissed my mouth with accurate affection, the kind that recruits your body while sparing your hope. "You're up early," she said, opening the fridge like it owed her milk. She smelled like mineral citrus and rain. "Calendar thinks I work nights now," I said. She glanced at the screen, blinked once, and smiled like a person who has learned to do math without moving her lips. "We can talk about my insomnia," she said lightly, and under the table her foot slid along my shin, our oldest code for stay. After breakfast, as if the body wanted to prove it could forgive what the mind couldn't, she crossed her knee behind my thigh in bed and guided my hand beneath her shirt, turning on a lamp the way some people say grace. My mouth found that coin of heat beneath her collarbone. She made the low vowel that dims a city. We moved with the fluency of people who have done the work of learning each other's climate. In the middle, her eyes went elsewhere and returned with apology penciled at the corners. "Pencil erases clean if you don't press." I didn't press. I kissed the apology. It stayed. I went a harbor line for air, which is what men say when they want concrete to tell them the truth. Time and polished discretion in the lobby. Heat lamps outside pretending months don't have teeth. The elevators did arithmetic for people who buy altitude and call it absolution. At the bar, a man with careful shoulders and a jaw that expects to be answered held a glass in a hand that understands small governance. Slate jacket, hair parted by geometry. He nodded to no one and the room obeyed. I ordered the cheapest beer the bar resented pouring and tipped like apology. On a screen near the desk, an ad cheerfully suggested, "Sync your calendar for seamless hospitality." The word seamless stroked my spine the wrong way. I went home with clean hands and a pocket that had decided to be heavy. Sunday wanted witnesses. Courage likes even numbers. Her brother Artem is precise and decent. My friend Nadia moves heavy things and refuses to narrate them. I invited them for dinner and called it a menu test because parties are scaffolding. The apartment learned to smell like garlic telling the truth. At 7:52, Yulia texted 15, which in our new math equals 30. At 8:23, she arrived with indoor wind on her cheeks and kissed me with accurate affection in front of them, practicing civility like a sport. We ate. Laughter borrowed our mouths and made a decent meal out of them. After coffee, I set my phone on the table and opened the calendar event the way you open a curtain. "My night shift," I said, aiming for gentle, landing on honest. Nadia put her palm flat on the table, universal sign for do not let the wood try to fly. Artem studied my face instead of the screen, a discipline and a blessing. "We should talk privately," Yulia said, the conference room arriving inside our kitchen. "We will," I said, "but I need witnesses that I didn't dream an RSVP." They left us with steam and a clock that stopped pretending to be polite. Yulia reached across and scrolled through the comments thread with 2 fingers as if she could zoom the night into decency. "I told myself it was a hallway," she said at last. "Somewhere I could stand without a tour guide. I liked the echo." She touched the cufflink half like a doctor testing for a fever. "Is he married?" I asked, bureaucracy for ghosts. "Separating," she said. "A daughter. 8. "Do you love him?" The word took a chair and crossed its legs comfortably. She tilted her face toward the ceiling crack that looks like a river refusing to choose a mouth. "I love who I am when I stop narrating," she said. "With you I started describing myself from outside like I owed footnotes to every breath." He turned the placards around and said he believed the painting without the text. She looked at me with a courtesy I didn't know how to hate. "I loved us like architecture," she said quietly. "I wanted weather." "We're going to separate," I told her. We did the clean work a knife does when you ask it to be kind." She nodded, and the hinge between her collarbones relaxed with a relief I wouldn't rename cruelty because it was honest. "Do you want me to go now?" she asked. "I want you to stop letting my calendar volunteer," I said. "Pick a door. I'll take the other." Leaving looks fast in photographs and slow in houses. She took the hoodie, the charger that fits everything and the scent that had colonized the corners. She left the cufflink half, the scarf the meeting loved, and a shared calendar that had learned to RSVP for people who didn't exist anymore. At the threshold, she lifted her hand toward my wrist, the old code, thumb to thin skin, and changed her mind midair. The absence of contact left a mark anyway. I was happy, she said, and greedy, and afraid and sorry. You were alive, I said, so am I. He wrote once as scripts require. Corporate letterhead arranged into contrition, respect, timing, a hope we could proceed as gentlemen, a noun that fails most modern stress tests. I forwarded it to a lawyer whose office lives above a cobbler. The stairs smell like leather and old rain. She asked the only useful question. Outcome or scene? Outcome, I said, surprising the piece of me that budgets for drama. Good, she said. Bring boring, dates, doors, dollars, screenshots over speeches. One witness who loves you without auditioning. And don't send your heart by text. Judges itch. I sent his email to Nadia, who replied with the three-word liturgy every stove deserves. Block, breathe, boil. I boiled water until the window wrote a softer weather across the city's hard face. The bed learned my outline again. The two-note phantom chimed inside my head at 12, 11 for a week, and retired when I stopped saving it a chair. I changed my calendar settings to private by default and renamed every color to something unromantic: steel, brick, dentist. I unsubscribed from shared moments, turned off smart suggestions, and taped a paper calendar above the desk because faith should be findable. Desire didn't resign. It rearranged its shelves. Some nights my body remembers the exact weight of her knee hooking behind my thigh and the soft, unreasonable sound she made when my mouth found the place where breath becomes heat. Memory is accurate and unkind. I let it sing to the chorus, and then I make tea. The kettle's small scream is the only emergency I answer after midnight. I press my thumb to the thin place at my wrist where her old code used to land and listen to the sentence the body never misquotes. Here, here, here. Once, because endings itch, I walked to Harbor Line at 1:30 a.m., the hour my calendar had believed in. The lobby smelled like time and receipts. The elevators did arithmetic for people buying altitude to excuse desire. I stood under the heat lamps pretending summer and forgave the numbers for being innocent. The bartender poured water with the same respect he gives men auditioning for regret and took a too large tip without making it a scene. I went home with air in my hands and a decision in my throat. Back in the apartment, I put 2 chairs on the too narrow balcony and let one be empty without inventing a speaker for it. I opened the window an inch and let the city wash its face. I salted water. I turned the lamp low. Then I made a new calendar from scratch, invited no one, titled the first event with a sentence that didn't need a guest list. Keep the door honest. The decree arrived on paper thick enough to cosplay gravity. I folded it and slid it beneath the tray by the door where keys and small solutions live. I took the cufflink half to a thrift shop and let it clink among other orphans. The woman behind the counter said to the air, "Some pairs sleep better apart," and I gave her the nod you reserve for strangers who bless you without demanding your narrative. The last time I saw Yulia, the elevator performed its secular magic of coincidence. We arrived at the lobby on the same chime. She wore a coat the color of decisions and carried a paper bag of oranges like a rationed son. "Hey," she said, neighbor quiet. "Sleep." "Better," I said, and the word didn't require applause. She adjusted her scarf and didn't touch my wrist. I admired her restraint and then my own. The doors closed and returned each of us to our earned floors. Sometimes, out of mischief or mercy, I create a calendar event for myself at 1:30 a.m. and label it weather. I don't invite anyone. I sit on the edge of the bed and breathe like a person who means it. If a future algorithm ever again tries to RSVP yes for a meeting I didn't plan, I'll teach it the rule I taught the apartment and the man who lives in it. Not tonight. Not anymore. The only standing appointment is with truth. And when morning finds its way through the small glass, I stand where I am and let it mark me present.